Obviously, Benghazi is unraveling and exploding in Obama's face a lot quicker and a lot faster than I thought it would. They tried to cover it up. The globalists are not invincible. The New World Order and the collectivists are not invincible. And they can end up basically going to jail for their crimes. The problem is much of the Republican leadership is involved in their own corruption and funded by some of the same globalist interests in many cases. And so they're not going to want to really go after Obama, because then skeletons that are in their closets will be spotlighted. Now, I know what I just said is well-known common sense. You're like, yeah, we know that, Alex. Well, the general public does not know that. And I agree with Mike Adams that wrote an article today for naturalnews.com that's also up on Infowars.com, where he says that he predicts the next 7 days you will see some type of giant diversion, war, staged terror attack, stock market crash. Who knows what it'll be? And when I open the phones up in the second hour today, I'm going to cover news in the first hour, I want to know what you think that diversion may be. Or maybe there's not going to be a diversion. Maybe you disagree. And maybe you don't think Benghazi is a big deal. We've known what happened in Benghazi since day one. We've known they've been lying. We know there was a standout. We've re-aired those Colonel Schaefer and Steve Pachinik and Webster Tarpley and Wayne Madsen interviews on the nightly news and here on the radio. And they're all there on record from 7.5 months ago. So 2 weeks after it happened, we knew. And by the way, most of it was in the news here and there as well. So much of the stuff gets hidden in plain view. They almost normalize the information by putting it in the paper. But just as a footnote, oh, by the way, it's confirmed the al-Qaeda forces that attacked, they were hired to run security in Benghazi by the Pentagon and NATO. Oh, by the way, they knew the inside security procedures that no one else knows. Highest level national security, a diplomatic security detail. Oh, by the way, yeah, there were 2 Predator drones overhead. And then the administration lied and said there wasn't. Remember that? But notice it's never a person from the administration saying who says. It's just sources say. Oh, and now they're saying Hillary didn't know. That's like saying Satan, didn't know he had a forked tail. This is ridiculous. So that's all coming up after the break. I'm going to cover that. Then, I saw this story on the website yesterday, and I called Kurt and Emma. We worked on an article together dealing with it. And that is all over the country, I've confirmed. They have drills where they practice fighting homeschoolers and militias when they attack public schools. In fact, that's the main scenario. So it came back out in the news, and I thought, why just have an article about how it happened this one time? Why not go back and have some of the background? So here's that article by Kurt Nemo. I've asked him to relink it. This is from yesterday in the write-up area of the write-up area for the show. It's Homeland Security funded exercise portrayed homeschoolers as terroristas. Look, I'm practicing my Spanish. Terrorist.
Hi, this is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, with some news about some new additions to the InfoWars store. Good health is freedom. When you're healthy, you're not a slave to the medical system. Everything works well, your brain, your body, even your spirit. You're a healthier person. And to help support that great health, Alex has asked me to source the cleanest, most potent superfoods and other similar products in the world and bring them to the InfoWars store. So we've done that. The brand name is Health Ranger Select, and we're starting out right now with these 3 products. We've got Himalayan salt from Pakistan, formed hundreds of thousands of years ago in an ancient seabed long before modern pollution destroyed much of the oceans. This is loaded with trace minerals, and it's pristine, true, full-spectrum sea salt. We've also got Natural Attitude Turmeric. It's an extract of turmeric, very potent, tastes great, alcohol-free. This is from organic turmeric out of India. And we've also got clean chlorella. And we sourced and did research on all the chlorella sources around the world, and we found the 2 cleanest sources that have the lowest levels of any kind of contaminants. In fact, this one is virtually free of all metals and all contaminants. It's called clean chlorella, and it's about 2/3 protein, and it's got chlorophyll and chlorella growth factor in it. Check it out online. It's an amazing superfood that athletes are using and people are using to help support healthy lifestyles. It's fantastic. This is all packaged in our certified organic facility here in Central Texas. There we follow USDA certified standards, and we're audited every year by the USDA certifier to make sure that we comply with all organic standards. That, combined with the fact that we only source super clean superfoods and raw materials from around the world, means that our products represent the cleanest and most potent products that you'll find across the natural products industry. Check all of these out under the Health Ranger Select brand name at the InfoWars store, InfoWarsStore.com. And we'll be bringing you more of these in the near future. Thanks and take care.
Benghazigate is going critical, and if Obama's globalist controllers do not stage some type of new war or provocateur or allow or carry out another big terrorist attack like Fast and Furious, they are in deep trouble. There is no way Obama is going to get out of Benghazi because they have been caught in the public's eye engaging in lies. Sure, they got caught involved in massive fraud when it came to Fast and Furious, shipping guns into Mexico for 3 years to then track them back to the U.S. to blame the Second Amendment in an attempt to restrict the Second Amendment. That's called a staged attack. It's called a false flag. It's called a frame-up, a self-inflicted wound, a provocateur event. But still, it dribbled out over time. It's a complex story, and it's hard for people to follow. But when you get something like Benghazi, people know that embassies and sub-embassies are heavily guarded. They know that there was a stand down. It's now come out that there was a stand down. They know they've been lied to. And there's such a loss of confidence in the government that if the establishment doesn't go after Obama and his group of cohorts, the establishment will lose even more credibility. Quite frankly, at a Machiavelli level, very sickening political level, which I don't support, but I'm able to follow that line of future development and scenarios. If they left Obama alone for this, it would probably only accelerate the awakening to the globalists even more. Because every time the corrupt get caught, but then show that they're in control illegitimately and don't get in trouble, it illustrates everything we're talking about. Now, I wish politically that Obama would be brought to justice, that Hillary would be brought to justice, that all of them would be, so that we could use this to really wake people up and use this to expand into other areas of government lies and try to get our government back. So that it's not just a private cash machine for offshore special interest that have basically conquered this country thanks to the collaborators in the so-called mainstream media. But all of that said separately, unless Obama stages, or his controllers, his handlers, stage something really big, you're going to probably see Obama get impeached over this, and if he doesn't leave office, indicted. Because they did order a stand down, and here's the problem. The military knows there was a stand down. From my military sources like Colonel Schaefer and others, they knew the whole story a week into it. That's why they had the head of the CENTCOM fired, and at least 10 other generals and admirals, because they followed the orders to stand down and watch high-def video in infrared of that 8-hour event, the firefight for about 5.5 hours, since it's from the very beginning to the end. They sat there and they watched it happen, and now it's a crystalline event. This isn't collateral damage where you bomb a building, kill 100 people to get one supposed bad guy. and then you find out that guy's really a double agent. Well, why did we do that? No, this is in the face, and this is what tyrants always do. They go too far. They get too arrogant. When I've talked about the fact that, let's be conservative, 40% of the military, if I'm in a restaurant, I'm walking down the street anywhere in the U.S., about 4 times out of 10, if it's military in uniform, officer, enlisted, a non-commissioned officer, whatever it is, the person or group runs over wanting autographs and says, we're all awake, we know what's going on. I go, you're all awake? Well, yeah, in our unit, our group. Well, what percentage? And they say 35 to 50%. So I round down to, let's say, 40%. Every time I could be in any city and walk past a group of police, some of them will say, hey, Alex, we know what's going on. We're not all bad. So my point is, even the enforcers of this system are waking up. In fact, more than the general public, because they're where the rubber meets the road. They're seeing the real illegitimate policies. And so imagine the military. Imagine the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Army, especially the Navy and the Army, because the Navy ships had their aircraft in the air. The Army had control of their own drones. The CIA drones were separately operated. They all saw in those situation rooms, they all watched the stand down and the execution. And then the jihadis go and get the missiles and the heavy guns, the truck-borne anti-artillery, technically medium guns, but heavy for rebel forces, to then be shipped into Syria. Now, I have news on that here today. A lot of you that are longtime listeners are going to say, oh, we already heard all this, Alex. You covered this years ago. And again, that isn't about tooting our horn. It's about saying you better listen to us, because being right in this type of system is dangerous. There is a talking point going on, and I'm going to cover it some in the second hour today, that I am calling for violence. I hear it on my show. I hear it on every other major conservative broadcast, that Alex Jones is calling for violence. And obviously, as a listener, you know that's the opposite. But I've listened to these calls now. These are people following a script. They call them seminar callers. And again, if they can take us down, folks, they can take anybody down. I'm in direct, quote, competition with Rush Limbaugh. I defended him when they tried to get rid of his sponsors last year and take him off the air. We went into a big ad buy that a lot of you heard to support, just as an act of resistance. Because if they can take Rush Limbaugh off the air, they'll take everybody else off the air. It's called hang together or hang separate. Even though I disagree with a lot of what Rush Limbaugh has to say, if people go around saying lies about Rush Limbaugh, I am going to counter it. Because if they can take him down, then they can get all the rest of talk radio, which isn't perfect, but you can call in. It's free form. There's long thoughts. It's very hard to censor and control. It's teleprompter free. And in one of these talking points, I was sent a clip where Michael Savage defended me just last Friday. So it's creepy. They want to put this idea out so that they can try to arrest me or shut me down or try to convince federal, state, you name it, police that I'm planning something. And it doesn't matter if you know that's not true. If they decide to go with some type of plan like that, you have to understand it's pure bull. All right, now we're gonna go to break, and again, the reason we're under attack is manifold, and it's multifaceted. We force the government arming itself against us, preparing for war with libertarians, returning veterans, Christians, conservatives. We forced in the last 4 years that information out and mainlined it. And even the media admits that, the establishment media. They hate it. We mainlined the fact that criminal elements in the government are running al-Qaeda, not just in Libya or Syria, but also here and in Europe. That's now mainline news. We forced it. And we forced so many other news items out. The system doesn't like it. So I hope you realize when you listen to this broadcast, you are hearing something that the establishment, the real hardcore criminal element of it, you know, they're all somewhat corrupt, but the really centralized, cold-blooded, globalist, anti-family, anti-human, New World Order, eugenics group absolutely has its eye on me.
I'm Darren McBreen, and these are some of the new items that are available now at InfoWarsShop.com.
Alert the public to Obama's blatant abuse of power with the new Obama t-shirt. Obama's Joker face on the front and come and take it on the back. It's time to publicly call him out for what he is, a tyrant. Defend the Second Amendment with our top seller Come and Take It t-shirts. And look at that, women's cut tank tops and t-shirts now available. Nice hat. Plus the Don't Tread on Me flag. And now you can become a micro distributor of the InfoWars magazine. Plus get your own copy delivered right to your door each and every month. And if you're tired like I am of you and your family being exposed to polluted drinking water, get the Pro One high performance water filter. It gets rid of all pathogenic bacteria, cyst, fluoride, heavy metals, and numerous other contaminants.
So join the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
All right, we have some of the biggest, no, not some of the biggest. We have probably, undoubtedly, the biggest Bilderberg group, global government news we've ever covered. Breaking tomorrow morning at InfoWars.com. And when we start the second hour, I will give you some foreshadowing of that. I mean, and it's all recorded. You get news this big, and you get it confirmed, and then you don't even know how to report it in a way that really illustrates how big it is. Because we underpromise and overdeliver at InfoWars. Undoubtedly. I mean, we're just constantly breaking big news, constantly forcing stuff out into the media. And again, I am humbled by that. I was pulling up to work today on Sunday, pulling in, and I got out of the truck, and I looked at the office, and I said, I can't believe that I'm one of the most prominent people fighting these folks, and that I'm having such a big effect. And I don't think that speaks to Alex Jones, the man you're listening to, yours truly, being really anything special other than the fact that I started researching tyranny a long time ago. I think it shows how pathetic a culture we become, that we become so acquiescent to corruption that we've just laid down to it, and that mild resistance defeats it. Mild resistance shoots down their anti-gun bills. Mild resistance will stop their open borders. Mild resistance will restore prosperity. But it takes mild resistance and not just being a TV head who believes you're powerless. So I'm going to get into that as well. And I've just got, obviously, IRS apologizes for targeting Tea Party groups. They don't just target them. They go after radio talk show hosts. They go after anybody who is right of Mao Zedong. People go, I thought they're in the left-right paradigm. I've got to use those terms to communicate with people. It's kind of like teachers that speak someone that teaches English-speaking people how to speak Spanish has to know how to speak English to teach people how to speak Spanish. Or someone who is Spanish, who wants to learn English, needs to be taught by someone who can speak Spanish to teach them English. But there is a left-right paradigm within the controlled system. But it is the, quote, right wing that is more advantageous to be used to restore the republic and common sense and due process and common law. And you can give that whatever name you want, but a free society. That's what I want. People say, what do you stand for? What does Alex Jones want? What are you pushing? That's what I'm pushing. And I promote and stand with anybody, whether they be Ted Cruz, Senator Rand Paul, DrudgeReport.com, whoever it is. If they consistently promote basic liberty, I stand with them. and you look at what Obama has done, I mean, I've got to be honest, Obama was far worse than I thought he would be. And Obama signifies the most corrupt elements of the power structure making a move to get everything they want now. They're moving on every front. You try to chronicle all the things they're doing. It makes the head spin. It is dizzying. And then there's Benghazi. And the only way they're going to get out of this is if they can blackmail the Republicans to stand down and not go after them. But the American people aren't going to stand for that. We're not going to just sit there and watch Darrell Issa score political points. We're not going to sit there and watch Boehner try to block subpoenas or investigations. They need to be added to the list of aiding and abetting this and being part of it if they go along with it. These are the type of things in history that could break down the whole power structure, and thousands of these crooks could go to jail. This is how you turn a country around, is events like this. But let me warn you, they either stage a big event to get out of this, or they blackmail the Republicans to do it, and that won't work. So the only way out of this is staging a big event. And the next 7 days, we are in prime danger. As I said Friday, as Mike Adams wrote today, we are in prime danger right now of a big staged event. They could provocateur it, they could fully stage it, you name it. So we're going to be talking about that. But let me tell you why we're in that great danger. Let's go to the document cam for TV viewers. Radio listeners, you can just read along and search all these. This is mainstream news. Republicans call for depositions in Benghazi probe amid revelation Clinton barely interviewed. Well, of course she wasn't. And she's in command of this. That's come out. George Stephanopoulos, George Will, nation systematically misled on Benghazi. When you get George Will coming out against you, you're in deep trouble. Pressure mounts on Boehner to, I know it's Boehner, the point is to appoint select committee on Benghazi. We don't want a select committee. We want a special prosecutor. We want congressional hearings. We want a full up or down vote for impeachment, indictment in the House, trial in the Senate now. By the way, we can get it if we demand it. They're going to try to set the parameter now of, will there be a select committee? No, not a blue ribbon committee of insiders. Huckabee, Benghazi cover-up could lead to Obama impeachment. Rand Paul challenges Hillary in key Iowa speech. Says they're covering up. Good for Rand Paul. McCain calls Benghazi a cover-up. Folks, when you get McCain, who is one of the worst people in Washington, coming out against you, you're in deep you know what. That's Politico. President of ABC and CBS News have siblings working in White House with ties to Benghazi, and it all goes back and forth on a revolving door as well. Like half the people on MSNBC and CNN have worked in the White House publicly. I mean, Media Matters, which nobody reads and doesn't get any, but it is it's what writes the talking points for MSNBC. It's the White House. It's run by the former transition chief. This is a group that calls to criminally infiltrate libertarian and conservative news agencies and, quote, destroy them from within. These aren't media people. These are spies. Let's continue here. Look at this. Report, NBC spiked story, IDing Benghazi whistleblowers as Obama Clinton voters. Yeah, but they've tried to, well, of course, they wouldn't be given those jobs if they weren't. They just don't like watching their own people killed and being accomplices to it. And they're smart to not go along with it. Hicks and others. Now, here's my final piece on this, and we're going to go to break and come back with the rest of the news. The New Yorker magazine, when the New Yorker, you can't get more establishment liberal, comes out against you and says the White House has been caught lying and Carney's been caught lying, it's over. This article says they've been caught lying and need to get in trouble. You know what that means? That means the New World Order is in deep trouble. They're going to try to contain it. They're going to try to blame it. And you know, oh my gosh, if Hillary resigns, that'll be called a big devastating discrediting. No, Obama gets impeached. Obama gets impeached. And then if the Republicans try stuff like this, we go after them politically. It's time to get government back on a short leash right now. You keep a government on a short leash or you get put on one. Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, you name it. And the globalists have been going after gardening. They've been harassing people that have gardens in their front yards or their backyards. They've called for licenses for people to have gardens because you can't trust prisoners in the police state America to be able to grow their own food. That's why I've come to the realization that we need to become self-sufficient. You need to be informed. You need to have the Second Amendment to protect yourself. You need to be politically active to wake up others. You need to filter your water. But you also need to plant a garden. Even if you live in an apartment, you can do this. If you live in the countryside, obviously you can do it on a grand scale. There are so many green belts in areas that humans don't even visit, nearby cities and in suburbs, where people are now more and more planting their own little private gardens and meadows and off the side of the road. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a revolutionary act to unplug from the television, to unplug from the computer and all the globalist propaganda, and to go out in your backyard or your front yard or planters at your apartment or on the roof of the building where you live, and to plant a garden.
Here are some of the amazing deals at InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest of times. The ARC All-in-One Seed Kit contains 70 varieties of 50,000 seeds of fruits, vegetables, medicinal, and culinary herbs. All ARC seeds are heirloom. Each type is labeled and sealed separately for ease of use and longevity. The Deluxe Emergency Seed Bank combines 3 of Emergency Seed Bank's top sellers: the Family Survival Emergency Seed Bank, the Medicinal Herb Seeds Pack, and the Culinary Herb Seeds Pack. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, and medicinal herbs and more. Go to the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
A little seed can grow a huge tree that produces fruit for up to 50 years. We have the best life bombs. That's what these are. We have the best weapons against death out there at the lowest prices, waiting for you to lovingly plant them and lovingly grow them and lovingly eat them and share them with others. We will strike back against the New World Order, and this is only one more initiative in our fight against them. So please join us at InfoWarsShop.com, or you can link through at Infowars.com at the InfoWars Seed Center. Let me continue here on Benghazi. Then I'm going to get into the other news and open the phones up in the next hour with the biggest Bilderberg news we've ever brought out. And I've really thought about that. It really is the biggest news. And I just don't know if people are going to register how important it is and how big a deal it is. But here are the headlines. New Yorker magazine spinning Benghazi. And in the article, they say, oh, the White House has been caught lying. Now, they're being forced to say this. They've defended it. They've covered up. They've defended Fast and Furious. They've defended it all. They've defended the insider deals with the waivers for the health care and the power plants being shut down, so General Electric made more money, and on and on and on, and shipping Volt and Cadillac factories to China. They've defended all the different programs. But now I'm seeing CNN, I'm reading a New Yorker magazine, I'm seeing John McCain, who's basically a member of the Democratic Party by fiat. All of them line up against the White House right now, because they realize people aren't buying their lies anymore. I've seen statistics where Congress, you can pull it up, Gallup poll has a 9% approval rating. I've seen numbers where 74% of Americans say they see the government as a bigger threat than terrorists, and then other polls of 50+%. And those are spin polls. It's worse than that. The people are awake, by and large. They just don't feel empowered and don't feel like they can do anything. All you've got to do is stop buying their lies and withdraw your consent and criticize them everywhere openly and say no to basically everything the federal government does, and their system will fall. Very simple. If it's in the Bill of Rights and Constitution, support it. If it isn't, resist it. And the mainstream media is losing its entire viewership. I mean, they're a shadow of themselves. Larry King, 10 years ago, had 7, 8, 9, 10 million viewers a night. Some nights, 15 million. Same time slot, 400,000 now is what he's got. When I went up against Piers Morgan on January 7th, his average viewership was 600,000. That night, it was 2 million. People say, Howard Stern asked me, he said, yeah, what are they afraid of, ratings? They should have you on every night with those ratings. It ain't about ratings at that level. It's about putting out the talking points and making it look like everybody's going along with the system. But when that facade finally falls, which it's starting to do, Katie, bar the door. 7,000 anti-mine tanks, 2 billion bullets, checkpoints, manuals saying Christians and conservatives and returning veterans and libertarians are terrorists isn't going to work. In fact, that propaganda is so over the top, that's what's woken up the police and military. All over the country, they're brought into briefings. It's in the Denver Post, and they tell them, Christians are terrorists. We're training to take their guns. To see who in the state police are for that. See, the corruption is getting to a level now. Yeah, there's the Fox News headline, Army labeled evangelicals as religious extremists, along with Al-Qaeda. All Catholics were listed as terrorists. Go read it. You cannot make this up. Listed as a religious extremist next to Al-Qaeda and said prone to terrorism. Where are Catholics blowing anything up? They list all evangelicals. Where, and you're like, if you're a new listener, you're like, that sounds nuts. Hey, I ain't the one, keep using the word ain't to illustrate it. I'm not the one who's doing this and writing this. I know it sounds crazy. I'm just reporting on what they're doing. Don't confuse the messenger with the message. Do not ever do that. Look, they list Catholicism, quote, U.S. Christian next to Ku Klux Klan and Al-Qaeda. I'm sorry. Ultra-Orthodox is listed as terrorist. You know, Jews that are Hasidic, that try to follow old traditions, kind of like the Amish, they're listed as extremists. I saw a new FBI report where they list the Amish as potential extremists. It's basically anybody that doesn't put on a skirt as a man, I'm not joking, and run out and announce they're a metrosexual and they hate their family. And again, I'm not attacking men that want to wear skirts. The point is the establishment on record wants to break up the natural order of things and wants to demonize those of us that don't want to wear a skirt. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at a crossroads here, and I want to play a clip here right now. Because, you know, when I say we're going to have 1776, they try to take the guns, 1776 was Bill of Particulars. Most of it was an info war leading up to 1774, 1775. I don't want that conflict to happen. I want to fix things peaceably. And we have defeated the gun bills for now. And we are going to try to get rid of the open border bill that even Wired reports, when I told you years ago, because all these bills do it, creates national ID card biometric system. We're going to be getting to that today. But I continually see it in the media, from MSNBC to you name it, saying I'm calling for violence. And you need to understand that, A, when you hear callers call in and call for it, I say it's not a good idea. We should exhaust every remedy and then only have violence as a defense if people try to forcibly inoculate us or take us to a FEMA camp or, you know, all this crazy stuff that's now in the Army manuals. We need to fight like the Dickens before we get to that point so that we never reach it. And then Adam Kokesh, the Libertarian talk show host, he comes out a week ago. It's in the news. It breaks. It's all over the news. I already knew about it a few days before, but decided to see what happened because I said on air I don't think it's a good idea to have an armed march on Washington, D.C. But once it broke in the news, I covered it. I've been asked to have an armed march. You've heard it on air. No exaggeration, probably 1,000 times over the years. 18 years on air. Not an armed march to overthrow the government, an armed march, they say, to illustrate we're in charge, we've got the right. D.C. Heller 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, ruled that they can't bar you from having guns in D.C. loaded to protect yourself if you're not a felon. But still, almost 5 years later, you can't have guns. So, yes, the police chief is in the wrong. They're all in the wrong. But I don't want the confrontation. They can provocateur it. But once Adam said he's going to do that on July 4th, it's already a big story. We've got to have cameras there, or people need to go there with cameras, if that's your choice, to document it as observers to make sure nothing goes wrong and to make sure they don't provocateur something. That has now been spun on the web that I have endorsed it, and all the usual suspects are the ones saying it. That I have said, let's go out and let's go armed. Now, again, if I say it's someone's right to do that, and I get that it's civil disobedience means breaking laws that are unconstitutional. Like blacks being told they have to sit at the back of the bus, start sitting at the front of the bus. It's civil disobedience because you're doing something that's illegal. The police chief of D.C. said, I will allow you to protest, even though it's civil disobedience. Because they say protesting's illegal. See, that shows how far we've gone. It's not illegal. Carrying your guns to D.C. loaded is illegal. So I've said, since it's already happening, we need to make sure they don't try to set something up. Then they spin that into I'm calling for armed conflict. We'll talk about it when we get back. That's right. Let me give the toll-free number out right now for folks in the next hour. I want to hear from you on Benghazigate. Do you think it's going to bring them down? Are you concerned about the establishment staging a new war or letting terrorists attack us or staging it themselves? I mean, they stage Fast and Furious and so many other events. What will they do? Or is one element of the establishment going to allow the destruction of Obama because the Democratic Party is getting too much power too fast? Because even the establishment understands the separation of powers and doesn't want a man on the white horse completely taking over. And that's what Homeland Security and Obama is doing. Did they move too fast for the globalist liking? Toll-free number to join us on the Sunday show, 877-789-ALEX. First-time callers today, 877-789-2539. Again, that's 877-789-ALEX. And we will get you up and on the air today. Now, again, I've played the clips. You've probably seen it. MSNBC, well, you probably haven't seen it. Nobody watches that. They come out and say, Alex Jones and Ron Paul, probably 10 times the last year, I've seen it myself, clips online, they're going to cause violence. They want violence. Why, their rhetoric's going to make crazy people go out and do something violent. I've had 2020, you name it, all of them ask me that question. While it's the government buying billions of bullets, the government saying Homeland Security is for their political opposition, I've got more news coming up in the next hour with a news clip where Homeland Security funding exercises nationwide portraying homeschoolers as terrorists and angry parents that attack the school with militias. That isn't really happening, but it's part of a demonization program so that maybe they can stage it down the road and people will believe it because, well, we drilled for that. There's a huge classical tyranny operation going on, and then if you look at it, they act like you're crazy. The Washington Post is flipping out today. Establishment media attacks Rand Paul for saying globalists plotting against Constitution. And Rand Paul is quoted as saying, Obama has teamed up with globalists to take over America. And they call it the black helicopter crowd. No, Obama says our military is under NATO now. And Congress can't see the Homeland Security civil unrest plans. Obama says that he's trying to bring in a new world order globalism. Here's the actual Washington Post headline. Rand Paul, Obama is working with anti-American globalists plotting against our Constitution. Well, yeah, that's what the UN treaty does. By the way, they use the UN treaty, though it's not even ratified. I read the Import-Export a Defense Department document that Cody Wilson was sent. We broke that on Thursday here. You noticed on Friday no one gave us credit in the mainstream media for breaking that with the 3D printable gun. And they stated import-export rules and treaties and said that it's against the law to transfer a 380 single-shot plan across the border when that's not been ratified. We are going under globalism. There are globalist corporate interests. $85 billion a month of taxpayer money goes to mainly foreign banks under QE3. What do you think 5 years of banker bailouts have been? Most of that money, more than half of it, almost all of it the last few years, goes overseas. But the details are, quote, classified, the Federal Reserve says. The Federal Reserve is private. How does it classify something with the president and the Treasury that is federal from Congress when they control the purse strings? We're under globalism, and they say, oh, he's discredited for talking like this. They're like, oh, that's discrediting. No, it's not discrediting. We need more people. See, if more people go, yeah, why is the private Federal Reserve mainly foreign shareholders? Why is it running our monetary policy? Why can't it be audited? Why is Congress not doing its job of oversight and the power of the purse in the Constitution? The globalists have gotten away with such outrageous stuff that if we ever just start talking like Rand Paul and Alex Jones, see, that's why they're like, Congress is having bullet purchase hearings because of that nut Jones. They're discredited. And Congress goes, no, you did buy billions of bullets and you're buying more and you're training to use them on us. It's over, folks, if we want it to be. Their outrageous takeover is outrageous. We're not outrageous for pointing it out. But that's something you see: cognitive dissonance, learned helplessness, mass Stockholm syndrome, normalcy bias, Overton window, whatever political, philosophical, psychological scenario term you want to use to describe it. It always happens when the neighbor gets caught with dead people in trunks in their house or in the backyard or in the refrigerator. No one ever believes it because they're not like that, so that couldn't be going on. And it's the same thing with these people. It's a fact we're under UNESCO UN treaty. It's a fact we're under Agenda 21. It's a fact they have federally taken the country over and are now trying to federalize and demonizing the states that say, hey, the federal government's been taken over. We want to get the country back. They call us secessionist or people in revolt. We're not in revolt. If I was on an airplane and there was a hijacking and I saw them bound the pilot, co-pilot, and the flight attendants, and then I saw the hijackers get in the uniform of the pilot, I wouldn't kneel before them and say, well, you're wearing... No, I would know that's an illegitimate hijacker. I don't care if you wear a uniform, but I'm convinced with the average American that a guy could knock the pilot on the head, put on his uniform, and the average American would actually kneel before them and would go into mass Stockholm syndrome. This is what happens now. And there's studies out showing more people go under Stockholm syndrome now when they're kidnapped and stuff. When Stockholm syndrome was first, discovered and codified, what, in the 60s, it was much rarer in studies. Now people shift into it. It's delusional thinking. Well, I'll just say everything's okay. I'll just say the guy going, hey, that's not the pilot, that's the hijacker. You're a conspiracy theorist, sir. Well, we all saw him. We all saw him get in the uniform. He's got the big beard. He's got the gun in his hand. He's got the hand grenade. Shut up and we'll all get out of this safe. Are you not saying he's a hijacker? That's right, conspiracy theorist. They lie to themselves. And so the only way they're going to get out of this is staging a terror attack or launching a big war. You can bet money. And I guess they'll do it in the next week or two. Or they've been told, you're going down, sit down and shut up. And there's been a rebellion within the power structure. And I've been told by some high-level sources that's happened. Not that there's even perfect people doing this, but they understand they don't want to live under Mao Zedong. They understand it's bad for business to live under something this corrupt. So let's play Michael Savage Friday, a syndicated radio host, has been a guest. We're going to get him back on soon. Having to say, well, I don't know if that's true, but Alex Jones seems like a good guy, with a guy clearly going off talking points, because we're hearing these same talking points everywhere, without proof that I'm saying attack the police, when I'm saying wake up the police. See, they're worried about that because I want to unify America. Let's go to this clip.
Anyway, so I want to touch on the question that you had asked, which is what media figures are goading us into a potential shooting war, which would be a catastrophe.
Yes, a catastrophe is right. So I'm gonna let you name names. I don't know that I'll agree or disagree, but you're going to name them. Who's doing this?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say that much like you, I believe that the quickest and most effective way to tear a nation apart is to pin the police against the citizens and the citizens against the police. And I feel that we have several provocateurs doing this. And to go back into the analysis of the wolf in sheep's clothing, I believe we have many patriots in patriot clothing, which are to be feared even more than the murderous government.
Well, hold on. You think the patriot movement itself could provoke the Civil War?
I believe it's certainly possible. When you look at the murderous government, of course, they wear their colors at the gate. They wave their flag openly. But one of their most effective weapons would be to infiltrate a movement that sets up a sort of opposition ideologically to...
All right, so they're doing a counter movement. I get it. They're, in other words, agents provocateurs within the patriot movement, trying to trigger some kind of inflammatory event. So this issue of the agent provocateur, you think they've penetrated what, the Tea Party movement, to try to provoke some kind of reaction from the government?
I would hope not so much the Tea Party movement. I believe the Tea Party as a whole, generally speaking, is...
Absolutely. I've never seen any violence. They
All right,
only
hit
believe
pause.
a gum wrapper on them.
Hit pause. When we come back, I'll finish the rest of the clip in the second hour. The guy goes, it's Alex Jones. He wants violence. He says be violent. When I'm saying wake the military and police up, and then the guy's saying I'm saying violence, and Michael Savage says, well, Alex Jones seems like a good man to me. So the point is that this is the lies. And that guy calling in probably works for MSNBC or somebody.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Yeah, it's Mother's Day, and women aren't married to their men anymore, mainly. They're married to the state. At least that's how the globalists would have it. And on this Mother's Day transmission, I want to welcome you all for joining us. Look, I'll take some calls in this segment. I ran out of time to play that Michael Savage clip. It was longer than I'd remembered it being. But the point is, there's a real talking point that libertarians, conservatives, gun owners, veterans are going to start shooting and killing everybody. And it's a way to paint us as terrorists. And there is a talking point that that I'm trying to pit people against the police, that I'm trying to start a civil war when I'm trying to stop a civil war. Now, when the police are federalized and act like goons and thugs, I say it's wrong. Mindlessly worshiping the police is what allows tyranny to come in. You want to worship police? Go to North Korea. Let's go to Wayne in Florida, and then we'll go to everybody else. Wayne, you're on the air.
You doing, Alex?
Pretty good, sir.
Mother's Day to your wife.
Go ahead, sir.
And I was just thinking about the Benghazi incident, and something that's kind of interested me in the past probably week, and having some family in the military and knowing some military officers, is something that Dr. Steve Pachinik touched on a little bit the other day, and that's that all of these officers that obeyed that stand-down order can be court-martialed and should be court-martialed.
Unless they go public and explain, you know, that in the moment they didn't, you know, in law, if they come out and admit they were wrong and admit they committed a crime, then they'll just get kicked out of the military for standing down and being part of the murders. If they go along with it and don't speak out, when we finally take the country back, they will be eligible for a very long stint in prison.
Well, that's what some of the people that I know that are, you know, not necessarily officers, well, and the officers, I talked with 3 different officers, and they all said that, you know, now that it's really coming out what really happened, they're very concerned about the upper echelon officer corps that we're seeing out of this.
Well, remember, it wasn't just going to be high-level officers in those situation rooms. I mean, there was all sorts of people, right down to enlisted, that sat there and watched all this happen.
Well, that's the point that they were really making, is the number of people, their fellow, soldiers, officers, enlisted men, that actually obeyed what essentially was an illegal order.
Well, see, here's the difference. Admiral Moore, who later became the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, I've interviewed him before he died. I interviewed the head JAG officer. They all knew they were on the ships. They were ordered to stand down and turn the jets back in '67 with the attack on the Liberty by LBJ. They told McNamara no. And then the president came on and said that's an order. And they sat there and watched the ship attack for another 2 hours by aircraft and torpedo boats. But they went public years later through channels and tried to expose it. Now, and they said they felt guilty and felt like they had helped be involved in that crime. But at least they went public. The difference is we can't wait 20, 30 years this time. And it shows how much danger we're in that the military would stand down and watch something like that happen. It shows how everybody's collateral damage now, you see, to the globalist agenda.
Exactly. Well, and it shows me, too, how far along we are, and as you bring this out a lot, to see the number of people that just don't even really care much about this. They're like, oh, this is just, something went wrong and somebody messed up and that's it. But when you have a congresswoman, former ambassador, sitting right there saying that, that was the president's decision.
All right, folks, you're tuned into the Sunday edition. I haven't even gotten into the huge Bilderberg Group news that we're going to be fully breaking tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, with a Paul Watson report that I'm working on with him all weekend, and that I'll be working with him tomorrow morning on. And if you don't know who Bilderberg Group is, at the bottom of the hour, I'll tell you and give you some of the history and why it's so important that we force the dinosaur media to cover it, and what one of our sources told us. We went and confirmed it, and it is devastating news. I'll give you the big part of it now, but all the details tomorrow. Googleberg. We've known Google is at the core of Bilderberg, at least for 10 years. Google, of course, created by the NSA and CIA. That's now been declassified. We broke that in 2005 with what David Steele, formerly of the CIA. But now Google is actually running it. And the Bilderberg Group meeting really starts next week. So people know I always say, it's coming up, and I'll just give you the news right there. But we've got recordings. We've got their whole agenda. And let me tell you, we got some really good sources. Of course, they surveil everything I do, but even with all their big computer programs, they're not going to be able to figure out where I got this information. So, by the way, this is the kind of stuff you get out in a couple days. In fact, I wouldn't have waited 2 days, but there's so much data, we've got to collate it all and get it together. It's part of really a 2-year investigation. I said I'd get to that. I'm already getting to it. The point is, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, Infowars.com. Audio streams if you don't have a local AM or FM in your area. Free podcast there on Infowars.com and so much more. XM 244. They just moved the whole channel I was on from 166 to 244. Okay, where to begin here with this hour? I got a bunch of Bilderberg news I want to get to. IRS apologizes for targeting Tea Party groups. That's part of bringing Obama down. That's been going on for a long time. Now it's in the Associated Press. We've got biometric databases of all adult Americans hidden in immigration bill. That's been in all the last versions under Bush, so we knew it'd be there. U.S. government funding Al-Qaeda, that's mainstream news. We're going to be getting into all that coming up in between your phone calls. But last hour I tried to get to this but misjudged the time. I'm going to play this clip of Michael Savage that I just happened to come across linked on Infowars.com in one of the articles, people making comments. And it's all over the place. I mean, I'll randomly tune into local radio and I'll hear, yes, I'm afraid Alex Jones wants to play people off against the police and wants violence. And it's always said the same. Or I'll be sent an MSNBC clip. There's like 4 of them in the last month. Alex Jones is going to cause violence along with Ron Paul, who wants violence. In fact, I played that clip about a month ago on air. Ron Paul wants violence? What? and what Dr. Magoo does or something, or Mr. Magoo? You take Ron Paul and Mr. Magoo and combine them, you get Dr. Magoo. I mean, the last thing I want is violence. And I've had guests on that have said, we need to have violence. No, we don't. That will absolutely let the globalists control the media, pose as the good guys. We are hurting them in the info war. The last thing we want is violence. The globalists have to stage their own violence. They get caught all the time to pose as saviors. So I played part of the call last hour. If you just tuned in, the guy's like, I'm concerned about provocateurs. I'm concerned about somebody trying to infiltrate the Tea Party. And this guy's either a liberal foundation operative, they're on record, they hire thousands of them to call in with seminar calls every day, or it's a defense contractor or a cop who's buying into the propaganda that you fight the establishment by never criticizing what the paramilitary police do. You know, that any criticism of government is some type of sedition. That's government sedition against us. So I wanted to play this clip of, and by the way, I get it on the other side. I get calls constantly, well, you hear them, going, Michael Savage said something bad about you. And then we go look it up and he didn't say it. Plus, Paul Watson listens almost every day. I listen sometimes when I'm not busy, but it's not true. So there, and I've talked to Savage off air before. He's had people go and send him stuff trying to stir stuff up. Man, I don't have time to sit here and get in fights with Michael Savage. He doesn't have time, and there's people trying to get this going because they're afraid. They're always going to Rand Paul and going, how dare you go on Alex Jones's show? So I don't even call Rand Paul. I don't even need him on the shows. I support him. I've known him for a long time, been interviewing him for 16 years, back when he used to campaign for his dad. You know, talked to him off air quite a few times. The last time Rand Paul was on, he called us and wanted to come on. But MSNBC says, don't go on Alex's show, Rand Paul. Like they're going to tell him what to do. It's the same thing with the Washington Post. Oh, he's discredited. He says Obama's plotting with globalists to overthrow our Constitution. What do you call the UN gun treaty? It puts us under the UN. What do you call 3 different generals? 3 different hearings with up to 5 generals per hearing. Last year saying we're under NATO command, Congress doesn't command the military. Congress isn't in control of the purse strings. That's a total lie. You've got to call it for what it is. So they're going to try to say we're crazy, we want violence, and they're going to try to get us fighting with each other. I don't agree with everything Michael Savage says, he doesn't agree with everything I say. Vice versa, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, any of those people. But the point is, at least they're defending the Second Amendment, property rights, the family, national sovereignty. We're dealing with Obama and the globalist, okay? And I am not here to infight with people. And I salute Michael Savage because I talked to Watson about this. He says, no, this happens all the time. There are people calling in, lobbying Michael Savage to say bad things about me, and they do it to everybody else. I talk to other big media people that aren't globalist. Same thing happens because they're afraid of us linking up. They want us fighting with each other. It's classical divide and conquer. If you support the Bill of Rights, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, libertarian, whatever you call yourself, if you support due process and freedom, you better come together against what this federal government's doing, headed up by Obama. And that's why they're coming after us, because we're simply Americans. You know who I am? I'm an American. You want to know what I stand for? Listen to the show. Read the news websites I have. Don't listen to people that call in not giving evidence. Listen to this caller. Go back to it.
Absolutely. I've never seen any violence. They don't even leave a gum wrapper on the floor. So I would, of all the groups in America, they're probably the most benign and the least provocative.
Exactly, I agree completely. You know, when I've seen or you know, associated with other Tea Party, you know, members of the Tea Party.
So where is this talk of go to war, get your guns, get your ammo, get the bulletproof vest, get the drum magazine? Who's provoking this? Who is doing this?
In my personal estimation, Alex Jones, for as much good as he's done as far as spreading information, accurate information, to a certain extent, yes, he does transmit facts. Yes, he does give out good information. But at the same time, there are certain things that the man does that really lead me to question his motives and his agenda.
Well, rather than going into it, because I think Alex is a good man who does the right thing, but if he's gone overboard, I can't speak to that. He'd have to speak to that. The fact is that the dogs of hate have been tearing at people of faith since the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. The fact of the matter is the dogs of hate on the left have torn apart our courts and schools, the military, the police, and they have snarled at us sufficient to provoke some people into an early reaction. I would like them to understand that they should back down at this time and not call themselves cowards for doing so. There are revolutionaries, there are counter-revolutionaries, and then there are anti-revolutionaries. I consider myself, Michael Savage, an anti-revolutionary. We do not want to burn the nation to the ground in order to save it. Mark, and I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
That's a very good question.
Okay, see how the guy, and if you hear the whole call, it's online, we'll post it. He says, you know, there's a group doing this, they're calling for violence, and he says, well, who is it? It's Alex Jones. Kudos to what he just said. That's what I say. I'm a restorationist. I want the republic back. I'm not a revolutionary. The globalists are the revolutionaries. You see, our illegitimate government, or the people that have hijacked it, they're the ones gearing up for violence. They're the ones carrying out violence worldwide. They're the ones with secret torture bases and all the rest of this garbage. And then they're always trying to say, those of us that want our country back, that we're the violent ones, that we're planning something. And it's a way to change the subject off of Benghazigate. It's a way to change the subject off of Tea Party groups and talk show hosts targeted by the IRS. That's stuff that Nixon did to his enemies, and that's what led to the beginning of his impeachment. But he stepped down before it went to the Senate. And so they're just trying to change the subject. Now, I'm going to go to your phone calls right now. I'm asking callers, what do you think of Benghazigate? Are you concerned like I am that Obama or his handlers may try to stage something? And what could they stage to politically divert off of Benghazi? It'll have to be mega massive. And again, I'm not saying the Republicans are going to save us either, but punishing government for wrongdoing is what will get it back under control. If you just let it run wild and, oh, that's just what they do, if they get away with Benghazigate and Fast and Furious and Solandragate, all the other things they've done, the Obamacare scam, all of it, trying to legalize 30 million illegal aliens and give them free welfare and food stamps to vote to take our guns. It's time to get angry. It's time to get on the offense. The Republican Party itself is going after the Tea Party, trying to say, oh, they're extreme. Rand Paul's extreme. Alex Jones. You've got the Democrats and Republicans attacking Rand Paul, attacking me. You've got National Review going, Alex Jones is an extremist. Yeah, I'm extremely patriotic. I'm extremely accurate, and I know what you're doing. Just like you went after Barry Goldwater. Hell, National Review didn't like Ronald Reagan at first. These people, William F. Buckley was CIA, folks, to control the right wing in this country. Look it up. Let's talk to Shauna in Texas, then Sean, Michael, Kelly, many others. Go ahead, Shauna.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm great. What's on your mind today with the Benghazi?
Hey, okay. So, first I want to make sure you know that Sandy Hook is found in the Batman Rises 2 times. I don't know if you know that, but I believe it all has to do with Benghazi. Benghazi, Aurora, Sandy Hook, all of them are all attacks against Americans. Within Aurora happening, about a year later, new legislation's going through. Sandy Hook killing our kids. Less than a month, new legislation going through. And so I wanted to let you know the other time Sandy Hook is found in that movie.
Yes, ma'am. We're the ones that broke that. And I appreciate your call. The media says Alex Jones says Batman's connected to the shootings for some reason. I didn't say it after the fact. I said this film looks like it's triggering and programming with subliminals for mentally ill people when I saw the trailer. And we put the video out. It got like 500,000 views. The makers tried to do a takedown order on YouTube. I challenged it. They tried to have my video taken down. And I said it promotes terror bombings, mass shootings, you name it. It's going to be a trigger. And if you know how PSYOPs work, then that's why in both events, you can actually look this up. They say it's strange. Sandy Hook was listed on the map of where Bain said attack. And the same thing with Aurora, and the guy was connected to Batman. And how did Alex Jones say this? It sounds crazy. I've just learned how these people operate. They love to brag about what they do ahead of time. Or they have things that are also meant with subliminals to trigger people that have been basically programmed. And not just programmed in some CIA mind control base. They can now program people that are on psychotropic drugs through the televisions. It's amazing. Let's go ahead. Let's talk to Sean in Canada. Sean, you're on the air.
Yes. Hi, Alex. Nice to talk to you. I was reading a book by Stephen Pidgeon, Prime Crimes, Treason in Libya. I don't know if you've seen the book, but he's a lawyer, and he has all the things listed in his book which they are criminal for. But if anybody wants to read the book, they can.
Sure, well, tell us about it. Tell us what you think about Benghazi.
Well, I think it was complete... it's murder and treason. You can't really... What else is it? What else is it?
Do you think Obama will get away with it?
They always have before. Why would anything change?
Well, I mean, sometimes things do change. These people are not invincible, and I think that if we have the attitude of that nothing's going to change, it won't. But I do hear you, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but this has really caught people's imagination. This has really, gotten through to people. So I don't know how they'll get away with it. And again, as for mind control, 15 years ago, they had Pokemon episodes that aired in Japan. More than 10,000 children had convulsions when it aired. They aired it here, and even more children had convulsions. Just the flashing lights can cause a convulsion. And if you go study the mainline science, they can flicker a television via the programming in the show and then put subliminal straight through, just like a magician can hypnotize highly suggestible people. You ever been to a big magic show? And the magician calls up like 10 people and asks them questions and does things and then sends most of them back? They're finding the suggestible people. What do you think advertising is? Back in the 50s, they would put in millisecond clips of a desert with a Coca-Cola dripping with water, an ice-cold Coca-Cola, and they found it doubled purchases of Coca-Cola. This is taught in radio, TV, film. It's in the textbooks, famous cases. A few years later, they would flash hot dogs and popcorn saying, "I'm hungry." And it would more than double people purchasing hot dogs and stuff. It's everywhere. And that's 1950s technology. That's what I was getting at there. That sounds crazy. Let me show you a few news articles. Then I'm going to go to break and come back with Kelly, Cheryl, Georgette, Richard, Diane, Andrew, and John to have your questions and comments ready. And again, I want to hear what you think about Benghazi. I want to hear whether you think Obama is going to get away with this. And maybe the last caller is correct. I certainly hope not, because if they can get away with anything, sky's the limit. But let me show you these articles right here if you're a TV viewer. Libya protest prompts U.S. to evacuate diplomats, put troops on alert, Washington Post. Now, who 2 years ago spent a year injecting more than 50,000 al-Qaeda operatives through Benghazi out of Egypt into Libya? Who took out the old Western-backed dictator because he wouldn't go along with it, Hosni Mubarak out of Egypt? Obama. Who in England at that Google campus a year before, in Watford, England, that's part of what's breaking tomorrow, who funded the Arab Spring out of Watford, England? Google. They are all involved in this, ladies and gentlemen, and now their own people are running around going crazy. But they don't care. Now they can just invade again to take out the people they put in. Order out of chaos. Here's another one. Under the black flag of al-Qaeda, the Syrian city ruled by gangs of extremists, London Telegraph, it goes on to admit al-Qaeda forces put in by the West are running around killing Christians, Jews, and others. And they fly the al-Qaeda flag over the city. That's London Telegraph. Oh, you heard that here 2 years ago? Now you get to read it in the London Telegraph.
Hi,
Hi, Ted Anderson, president of Midas Resources. With over 30 years of experience in the precious metals business, I can tell you without a doubt, we are facing the most dangerous and volatile times, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Peace of mind is gold and silver. Now is the time to invest in gold. When it comes to bullion coins, our prices are competitive and the closest to melt. If it's numismatics you're looking for, we have some of the best deals out there. Visit MidasResources.com today or go to Infowars.com and click on the link to see our daily specials. Here's an example of one of our long-term specials we've been offering for more than a year. 2 silver dollars from the turn of the last century, plus 2 powerful films, The Obama Deception and The American Dream. We also add in the book Dishonest Money, all for $72 and free shipping. The most trusted name in precious metals is Midas Resources. Call 1-800-686-2237 or go to Infowars.com. I'm Ted Anderson with Midas Resources.
We are now only entering the edge of a global financial superstorm, the likes of which the planet has never seen. Here in the United States, the private Federal Reserve is giving more than $85 billion of taxpayer money a month to themselves and other offshore foreign banks. And the worst part is, we have to pay the banks interest on the money we give them. There is now a race between the global central bank mafia cartels to see who can devalue their country's currencies the fastest. We are already seeing big increases in inflation at the grocery store and the gas line. This will eventually lead to hyperinflation. More than a dozen top globalists like George Soros have been buying record amounts of gold while at the same time bad-mouthing it to the public. Don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they do. For more than 6,000 years of recorded human history, gold has been the ultimate hedge against uncertain times and inflation. Before investing in metals, it is important to do your own research and find a reputable company. Midas Resources has the highest Better Business Bureau rating of an A+. Unfortunately, very few precious metal companies can boast that. Midas Resources has assembled one of the most educated, researched, and professional teams of brokers in the industry. The evidence is overwhelming. In uncertain times, gold and silver is safe harbor. Now is the time to invest in gold. Call 800-686-2237 and Midas Resources will mail you 10 reasons to own gold absolutely free. No shipping. It's absolutely free. And finally, Ted Anderson wants to challenge you to find any deal that comes close to his 2 silver dollars at cost with free shipping with 2 free films and a book for $72. That's more than $160 value for $72 shipping included. Click the link at Infowars.com to go to the MidasResources.com specials page. Brought to you by MidasResources.com and Ted Anderson, the trusted name in precious metals. Okay, let me just briefly hit this news as quickly as possible. Obviously, tomorrow on the 3-hour show, I'll get to more of this, but look at this. I told you this years ago. I've had guests on about this. It's a fact. IRS apologizes for targeting Tea Party groups, but this only came out because of whistleblowers. And it turned out they've known this for years, and the Treasury did nothing. So why is the Treasury Department only now admitting this? By the way, when Nixon did this, he was going to be impeached for it. So if you commit a crime, and it's illegal to do stuff like this, to share the data, to go after people because of their political views, who's going to go to jail for that? You know, I'm sick and tired of apologies. And this is only coming out now because there are whistleblowers, which they've tried to prosecute. So, again, see, we told you so on that front. And here's Kurt Nemo's article from Friday about it. IRS admits harassing patriot groups. Unbelievable. Here's another one. Biometric database of all adult Americans hidden in immigration reform. We told you that weeks ago. We told you that years ago. It's in every bill. It's a national ID card. It's in every immigration bill. It's a national ID card for you. The illegals are above the law. And I'm not personally even against the illegals. I don't blame them coming here. Have your kids for free, get free welfare. Globalists have imploded their countries. The point is it's meant to bankrupt the country. Again, are the globalists above the law? That is the question I'm asking you. Look at this article I showed you earlier, London Telegraph. U.S. government puts al-Qaeda in charge of areas of controlled Syria. under the black flag of al-Qaeda, the Syrian city ruled by gangs of extremists. Is our government above the law? It's not our government. It's not above the law. It's outside of the law, and it's gotten away with bloody murder. They call that anti-government. I love my country. I fear my government. I fear it being out of control. And when the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. And if you don't like that, you don't like America, because that's a Thomas Jefferson quote. Laying down to corruption enslaves us. It destroys our future. Are they above the law? That's what I'm asking you. How long can their bluff go where they go, look at Rand Paul. He imagines a new world order, global government. He's a cook, nanny, nanny, boo-boo. It's a seal of approval now when they attack you. Yeah, I was telling a GQ writer that the other day, and I was telling the same thing to a Esquire writer. And I was telling it to a TV producer calling me, sitting there questioning me. And I said, look, I don't need to convince you of this stuff. Plus, you're not going to listen anyways, most of you. Or if you do, your editor won't let you publish it. I said, you're going to find out. All this stuff's real. And I tell these people stuff, and they look at me like I'm crazy, like Delta Force is running riots and secretly buying off police chiefs. And then the guy sends me a text message going, wow, I looked that up. It's true Delta Force was here and there. I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. I've been there when they're training to put us in FEMA camps. And I can show you the Army document, 2 years old, on Army.mil, where they train to put us in camps. You please pull up the Army camp memo. I want to give people the actual name of the, just type in U.S. Army re-education camp, and you'll be at Army.mil. They use the Soviet term re-education camp. I mean, you talk about Creepville, man. It's FM 3-39.40. Internment Resettlement Operations, February 2010. Let's go to Michelle in Texas. You're on the air.
Hello, it's actually Michael. But
there's another Michelle
okay.
there. I apologize.
That's all right. Anyway, I'm calling about the Benghazi thing, and I agree with you. I also think that there's probably going to be a couple of different distractions. I don't know if you're aware of it, but today in New Orleans there was a shooting at a Mother's Day parade, second line parade, 12 people shot.
Oh, my God.
A little girl had a minor injury. I think 3 were in surgery, but there's not more news yet if they've passed or not. But I had to call immediately and bring it to your attention. So I don't know if it's provocateur or if it's just some random nutcase out there, but I think there might be more than just one big distraction, that there's going to be several.
Well, listen, they've got federally funded mental institutions with fellow travelers in them where they've been caught releasing mentally ill people they know are planning to go kill people, and they let them do it. And again, then they try to say we can't have guns to protect ourselves so that good people with guns aren't there to stop them. And what they hate is those numbers that came out last week. Did you see the Justice Department numbers of the 69% drop in wounding shootings and all that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I watch your show every day. I mean, right now I'm on PrisonPlanet.tv, and, my friends are like, oh, Michael, you're kind of out there with your stuff. And I said, listen, this isn't my opinion. Go look it up. I didn't write this.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This is in Operation Northwoods, the U.S. government plan to shoot people in the U.S. Just type in Operation Northwoods, folks. You'll get ABC News. Here's USA Today. I can't believe I missed this. How long has this been out? When did this happen? 17 hurt at New Orleans Mother's Day Parade. It's now 17 when gunmen open fire. It'll either be staged or it'll be gang-related. But gunmen opened fire on dozens of people. Gunmen, that sounds very suspicious. Marching in a Mother's Day neighborhood parade in New Orleans. Now mothers got mad when it happened and demanded the guns be turned in. On Sunday, wounding 17 people, police said. Police spokesman Remy Brendan said in an email that 17 victims were grazed and most of the wounds weren't life-threatening. No deaths were reported. Oh, thank God. We have the Bilderberg Agenda 2013. We have, from our inside sources and then confirmed on the ground, that they're having a extended, like, 3-4 week Bilderberg meeting, with the main meeting June 6th through the 9th, but weeks of Google building up to it with armed guard shacks, and then weeks of Google after it. So Google, like, runs it now and is heavily involved at every level. And then the mayor is like, I don't think protests are good. They're always violent. And it's so prestigious that Bilderberg is coming here. Of course, our media says it doesn't exist. Here is the local news articles. We have them linked up on Infowars.com. The Watford Observer. The Grove Hotel set to host Bilderberg Secret Summit. And that was out yesterday. Watford Mayor, Bilderberg protesters can and do cause violence and disturbance. So tomorrow we're just going to have the big data dump on them. And our source said, get over there. This is what's happening. And then we sent Watson and other reporters in. I'm not going to say who else we have there. We basically have reporters there constantly. and just the whole staff feels like they're special and are walking around blabbering. Yes, we launched the Arab Spring here. Yes, Google runs Bilderberg. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just like, and that's what we were already told by our source inside Bilderberg. Multiple sources, but one big one said, get over there. And it's like guard shacks and being set up, and we're talking 3 weeks out from it. It's crazy. Let's go to your calls quickly. Kelly in California, then Cheryl and others. Kelly, welcome.
Yes, Alex, I just have some thank yous today. Thank God for you being the trumpet of truth. And I want to thank my mom for naming me Kelly, which means warrior. And
warrior princess. Let's get that straight.
And let's start calling Go Ogle what it is and what it does.
It spies on you, and of course Bilderberg pretty much probably started it, so of course it's merging with it. It's its child. Google is a giant public NSA, global government promoting, anti-gun, New World Order trash machine.
It is. It's Go Ogle, and Barak means lightning. So back to the Benghazi thing, anything could happen when someone like that is around.
Yeah, and look, you know, the fact that it's a Sunday, this didn't get any news till about 4 hours ago. There's 17 injured in what they think probably will end up being gang-related. But let me tell you, if it was staged, they'd have had their story ready, minute one, and oh my gosh, we've got to take the guns now. But again, 49% drop in violent crime, 69% drop in wounding shootings, 39% overall fatality shooting death reduction, just department numbers, LA Times. Others covered it last Wednesday. Thank you so much, Kelly. Great points. Cheryl in Tennessee, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. Great to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, ma'am.
I wanted to say this. I think as far as Benghazi goes, I think this IRS story, I mean, all of a sudden, out of the blue, this comes out on Friday after, you know, Obama's media starts to say, hey, you know, we think maybe something was, you know, truth wasn't told here. I think that was an attempt possibly to distract. And I noticed Drudge had a story come out Saturday that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, that the IRS was also targeting Jewish groups. I kind of wanted to know your thoughts on that.
No, in fact, that's in my stack. I meant to get to that. There's just so much news. Yeah, no, like conservative groups, period, have been targeted, and the headline was it was going after Jewish nonprofits.
Right.
Why do you think that?
Why? I'm sorry?
Why do you think that is?
Well, I read the article. It was fairly brief, and it just kind of concerns me because one of the organizations claims that the IRS asked them a question, and I can't quote here. I don't have it in front of me, but it was something like, do you support the land of Israel as a state, or something like that? And it's just very concerning.
No, you're right, ma'am, and I did see the article. We're going to pull it up on screen for people. It's linked up at the top of drudgereport.com, at least earlier when I was looking. I think it's been moved down now, but it's in my stack. I'll try to find it. Problem is the main broadcast is going to be over here in just a few minutes. But look, here's the issue. The IRS wasn't around until 1913. It's always been a political group, and it always goes after people politically. And so, yeah, there's the link. It's out of the National Review. IRS Inquisition Update. And so this is the type of stuff they do. And Nixon was going to go to jail for it till he stood down. Obama, I don't so much think it's a distraction the media is doing, is that everybody's getting sick of being threatened, and so more whistleblowers are coming out because they don't care anymore. And the answer to bring down corruption is for good men to stand up. The way you end up in tyranny is good men and women do nothing. Let's talk to Georgette in North Dakota. Thanks for holding, Georgette.
Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you for smacking down Piers Morgan. That made the rest of my life.
People love that. They just love that. You know.
It's a great therapy. Now, about Benghazi, all of those politicians involved from the top, and every one of them need to be made accountable to the law like everybody else. They should be fired. They should have their assets confiscated. They should be put in prison. And the public should not allow any false flag diversion, no matter how large, to take this blatant criminal activity off the radar and have it swept under the rug. We need to demand some real justice and the restoration of our freedom and civil liberties, because we are fed up with their phony wars on everything and their control over every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely. You've got a bunch of different special interests fighting over control of the global government levers of dominance, and if they stage an attack or let an attack happen, or if they all get on the bandwagon and hype something, they can then attach the public purse. But they're going to destroy the country if it continues. And then they go, well, that's good, we'll bring in globalism. The truth is, freedom is the only security. And that's a decision the establishment needs to make. I mean, do they really want to play dictator? Because that's a very dangerous place to go. Thank you, Georgette. Great points. Richard in California, you're on the air.
Well, at the time, you called Ambassador Stevens a punk, so I'm thinking that you kind of have strange bedfellows with Hillary Clinton there. But
you know what? I'm confused by what you're saying, and I'm calling for violence too.
No, you just called Ambassador Stevens a punk.
And hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. And I've also been in league with the Easter Bunny. No, I do think going back from memory here, I'm not the one that ran Benghazi. Okay, so let's not distract off of that. I'm going to go back to you in just a moment, Richard or whatever your name is. But here's the issue. What I said is the punks and scum that think they're going to put al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria to carry out massacres of innocent people, that it's going to come back and bite them in the butt someday. That's what I said day one about Benghazi, and that it was a setup, and that those people that were killed there were probably killed to cover up what was really going on there. Now, that's what I've been saying since day one. Now, should Obama be impeached for this? What do you think is going to happen? That's the question. It's not about me. I didn't run Benghazi. Go ahead.
Okay, I have the documents to play for you, but to answer your question, I think he gets away with it because of his support structure. People like him. He has a lot of people that are going to let him get away with anything. And so, you know, I think it's bad. All right,
I got to jump. Thank you for the call. Let's go ahead. Now you heard it, folks. Now I killed the ambassador, basically. Let's go ahead and talk to Diane in Louisiana. You're on the air, Diane.
Hi, Alex. How are you today?
I'm good, ma'am. Go ahead.
You're on fire. Okay, I just wanted to make a comment on this Benghazi thing. I'm with you totally. I'm not really a political person, but I am learning so much listening to your show. But on another note, is there any way you can get on Lyndon LaRouche, or if the people that's listening today, to go to LaRouchePAC.com and click on the RSS feed and look in the second column? And there's an article where you can print out to restore America. And
no, it's a great plan. It's a plan to impeach Obama and to get the Glass-Steagall Act back. That's why they demonize Lyndon LaRouche so much, because he does have some good ideas. I don't agree with them all, but thank you, ma'am. And again, it's very frustrating. I'm hurrying here to try to get to everybody. Let's go ahead and talk to Andrew in Illinois. You're on the air, Andrew.
Yeah, I hope they get our military back under the United States control again, away from the UN. That's part of probably what happened in Benghazi, that they had UN people over, their control.
No, you're right. Actually, NATO. But yeah, the UN was involved too. No. That's how they were able to say, oh, we don't know because NATO's in control. That's a way to get control away from Congress. Absolutely.
All the bullets being grabbed by the Homeland Security. I think they're planning on using the bullets to get and have devices that shoot off bullets without guns in order to stop bullets from being sold. They're going to
well, absolutely. It's meant to put a corner on the market. I appreciate your call. But also, it's more than that. Homeland Security bought like 7,000 pounds of plastic explosive last year. What is that for? You have thousands of armored vehicles. They admit they're training for war against us. It's illegitimate. It's unconstitutional. Get the government back under control. That's what America's all about. Infowars.com. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.